Think drought means the end of your garden. Think again. There are 12 incredibly resilient crops that have been feeding humanity through scorching heat and water scarcity for millennia. Yet modern agriculture has pushed them to the sidelines in favor of water-hungry varieties that struggle in harsh conditions. These forgotten powerhouses don't just survive drought and extreme heat, they actually thrive in it. And if you're not growing them, you're missing out on some of the most nutritious, low-maintenance and climate-resilient vegetables and grains you can put in your garden. After years of researching heritage crops and traditional growing methods from the world's driest regions, I've discovered these desert warriors often outperform their popular counterparts in flavor, nutrition, and sheer survival instinct. Today, we're diving deep into all 12 crops that deserve a comeback in your climate-challenged garden. Stick around, because number 8 is a grain that sustained entire African empires, and that bonus tip at the end will completely change how you think about water conservation in your garden beds. Let's start with our first crop. 1. Tepary bean. The tepary bean is possibly the most drought-tolerant legume on the planet, and if you've never heard of it, you're not alone. This remarkable bean has sustained indigenous peoples of the Sonoran Desert for over 5,000 years, thriving in conditions that would kill most garden vegetables within days. Here's what makes tepary beans absolutely extraordinary for drought-prone gardens. These small beans come in white, brown, golden, and beautifully speckled varieties, and they pack an incredible nutritional punch with protein levels that rival or exceed common beans. But here's the drought advantage that sets them apart. Tepary beans have evolved to germinate and produce with as little as 10 inches of annual rainfall. That's less water than most vegetables need in a single month. The secret lies in their incredibly deep and extensive root system. While common beans send roots down maybe 2 to 3 feet, tepary beans can reach depths of 6 feet or more, mining moisture from soil layers other plants can't access. The plants are low and bushy, typically reaching only 12 to 18 inches tall, which means less surface area for water loss through transpiration. For growing in zones 8 through 11, tepary beans offer a unique opportunity to harvest protein-rich food with minimal irrigation. Plant seeds about 2 inches deep and 4 to 6 inches apart after soil temperatures reach at least 60 degrees Celsius. These beans actually perform better in poor, sandy soil than in rich, amended soil. Excess nitrogen causes excessive leafy growth at the expense of bean production, and in their native habitat, they've adapted to lean soils. Here's the remarkable part. Once established, tepary beans require almost no supplemental water in many climates. They can produce full crops on rainfall alone in areas where other beans would wither and die. The plants are incredibly heat-tolerant, continuing to flower and set pods even when temperatures soar above 100 degrees. It's conditions that cause other beans to drop their flowers and abort pods. The beans themselves have a rich, earthy, almost nutty flavor that's more complex than common pinto or black beans. They hold their shape beautifully when cooked and are traditional in Southwestern and Mexican dishes. You can harvest them fresh as shell beans when the pods are plump but still green, or let them dry completely on the plant for long-term storage. Dried tepary beans store for years without losing nutritional value or flavor, making them a true survival crop. They're also remarkably resistant to the pests and diseases that plague other legumes, particularly in hot, dry conditions. The roots develop nitrogen-fixing nodules that actually improve your soil for future crops, leaving it richer than when you started. One packet of seeds can produce several pounds of beans from a 10-foot row, even in difficult conditions. This is a heritage crop that deserves not just preservation, but widespread adoption by gardeners facing water restrictions and climate uncertainty. 2. Pearl millet. Pearl millet is one of the oldest cultivated crops on Earth, grown in Africa and India for over 4,000 years. Yet it remains virtually unknown in Western gardens. This is criminal negligence because pearl millet is perhaps the most heat and drought-tolerant cereal grain you can grow. The plant thrives in conditions that would devastate corn, wheat, or rice. Pearl millet looks somewhat like corn, but grows taller and more slender, often reaching 6 to 10 feet with distinctive cylindrical seed heads that can be 6 to 14 inches long. These seed heads are packed with small round grains that can be white, yellow, gray, or even purple depending on variety. What makes pearl millet absolutely perfect for hot, dry climates is its ability to produce substantial yields with as little as 10 to 15 inches of rainfall annually. The plant has evolved in the Sahel region of Africa, one of the hottest, driest agricultural zones on the planet. Your hot, dry garden is actually pearl millet's comfort zone. The crop can withstand temperatures exceeding 110 degrees Celsius without stress, and it continues photosynthesizing and growing when other grains have shut down completely. Plant pearl millet seeds about 1 inch deep and 6 inches apart in rows once soil temperatures reach 65 degrees Celsius. The plants establish quickly with deep, extensive root systems that can reach 8 feet or more into the soil. This allows them to access moisture that exists far below the surface, moisture that conventional vegetables never reach. Pearl millet requires less water than almost any other grain crop. We're talking about 70% less water than corn to produce the same amount of food. The plants also have a unique ability to go dormant during severe drought, then resume growth when moisture returns. This drought dormancy mechanism allows pearl millet to survive conditions that would kill other cereals outright. The grain is incredibly nutritious, with higher protein content than corn or rice and rich in iron, zinc, and B vitamins. It's naturally gluten-free, making it valuable for people with celiac disease or gluten sensitivity. The grain has a mild, slightly nutty flavor and can be cooked whole like rice, ground into flour for flatbreads and porridge, or even popped like popcorn. One seed head can produce several ounces of grain, and a small row can yield several pounds. The stalks can be used as fodder for livestock or composted to return organic matter to your soil. Pearl millet is also remarkably fast maturing, ready to harvest in just 65 to 90 days depending on variety. This makes it possible to grow even in areas with short growing seasons. The crop is incredibly pest and disease resistant, particularly compared to corn. This is a true climate-resilient crop that modern gardeners desperately need to rediscover. 3. Sorghum. Sorghum is the tall, majestic grain that's criminally underutilized in home gardens, despite being one of the 5 most important cereal crops in the world. Native to Africa and cultivated for over 5,000 years, sorghum has been a staple food for millions. Yet most Western gardeners only know it as livestock feed or material for brooms. That's a massive oversight, because sorghum is one of the most drought-tolerant and heat-resistant grains you can grow. The plant looks similar to corn but grows taller, often reaching 8 to 15 feet depending on variety, with seed heads that can be white, red, bronze, or brown. What makes sorghum absolutely perfect for drought-prone gardens is its ability to thrive with 40% less water than corn while producing comparable yields. Sorghum has one of the most sophisticated drought survival mechanisms of any crop plant. The leaves have a waxy coating that reduces water loss, and they can roll up during the hottest part of the day to minimize surface area exposed to the sun. The plant also has the ability to go dormant during severe drought, ceasing growth but staying alive, then resuming growth when moisture returns. The root system is extraordinary. Sorghum sends roots down 4 to 6 feet and spreads them laterally to capture every bit of available moisture. This deep root system also makes sorghum incredibly efficient at mining nutrients from soil depths other crops can't reach. Plant sorghum seeds about 1 inch deep and 6 inches apart in rows once soil temperatures reach 60 degrees Celsius. thin seedlings to 12 inches apart once they're established. The plants develop quickly in warm weather and can tolerate soil temperatures up to 95 degrees Celsius without stress, conditions that would shut down corn growth completely. Sorghum continues to photosynthesize and grow efficiently even when temperatures exceed 100 degrees. This heat tolerance, combined with its drought resistance, makes it ideal for climate-challenged gardens. The entire growing process requires less water than almost any other grain crop. Sweet sorghum varieties can be grown for both grain and sweet syrup extracted from the stalks. Grain sorghum produces seed heads packed with nutritious grain. The grain can be popped like popcorn, ground into flour for flatbreads and baking, or cooked whole like rice. Sorghum flour is naturally gluten-free and has a mild, slightly sweet flavor. The nutrition profile is impressive, higher in protein than corn, rich in antioxidants, and containing significant amounts of iron and B vitamins. One seed head can produce several ounces to over a pound of grain depending on variety, and a small row can yield many pounds. As the seed heads mature, they also provide food for beneficial birds that help control garden pests. The stalks can be composted after harvest, returning valuable organic matter and minerals to your soil. This is a true survival crop that deserves a place in every climate-resilient garden. For amaranth. Amaranth is an ancient grain that sustained the Aztec civilization and has been cultivated for over 8,000 years, yet it's practically unknown in modern Western gardens. This is tragic because amaranth is one of the most nutritionally complete, drought-resistant, and heat-tolerant plants you can grow. The entire plant is edible, both the nutritious seeds and the protein-rich leaves. Amaranth plants are stunning, growing 4 to 8 feet tall with brilliant red, gold, or green foliage and dramatic flower plumes that cascade with thousands of tiny seeds. The plants look ornamental enough to grow as landscape features, but their real value lies in their exceptional nutrition and climate resilience. What makes amaranth absolutely remarkable for hot, dry climates is its C4 photosynthesis pathway, the same super-efficient system used by corn and sorghum. This allows amaranth to convert sunlight to plant material much more efficiently than most crops, and to do so while losing less water through transpiration. Amaranth is incredibly heat-tolerant, thriving in temperatures that stress other plants. It continues growing vigorously when temperatures exceed 95 degrees and can handle sustained heat above 100 degrees Fahrenheit without damage. The plant is also remarkably drought-resistant, producing full crops with significantly less water than conventional vegetables. The root system develops quickly and reaches deep into the soil, accessing moisture other plants can't reach. Amaranth can survive on natural rainfall in many regions where other crops would require irrigation. In fact, too much water actually reduces seed production as the plant puts energy into leafy growth instead. Plant amaranth seeds after the last frost when soil has warmed to at least 60 degrees Fahrenheit. The seeds are tiny, so mix them with sand for easier distribution. Scatter them thinly and barely cover with soil. Thin seedlings to 12 to 18 inches apart once they're established. The plants grow rapidly in warm weather, often reaching full height in just 60 to 90 days. You can begin harvesting young leaves for cooking when plants are 6 to 8 inches tall. The leaves are incredibly nutritious, higher in protein than most greens and rich in vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. They taste similar to spinach with a slightly earthy flavor and can be used fresh or cooked. The seed heads develop in late summer, forming dramatic plumes that gradually fill with thousands of tiny seeds. When the seeds begin to fall freely when you rub the seed heads, it's time to harvest. Cut the seed heads and dry them thoroughly, then thresh by rubbing them over a bucket or stepping on them inside a bag. A single plant can produce a cup or more of grain, and just a small patch can yield several pounds. The grain is a complete protein containing all essential amino acids. a rarity in the plant kingdom. It's also rich in lysine, an amino acid often lacking in other grains. Amaranth grain can be cooked like rice, popped like popcorn, or ground into flour. The flour is gluten-free and has a nutty, slightly sweet flavor. This is a crop that provides both greens and grain with minimal water input. A true climate adaptation champion. 5. Cowpea, black-eyed pea. Cowpeas, commonly called black-eyed peas, are one of the most drought and heat-tolerant legumes on the planet. Originating in Africa over 5,000 years ago, cowpeas have been feeding humanity through scorching summers and water scarcity for millennia. Yet many gardeners overlook them in favor of more finicky beans that struggle in heat. This is a massive mistake because cowpeas thrive in conditions that devastate other legumes. The plants are vigorous and productive, with varieties ranging from compact bushes to sprawling vines. The pods can be green, purple, or red, and contain beans with the characteristic black eye marking, though some varieties are cream-colored, red, or brown throughout. What makes cowpeas absolutely exceptional for hot, dry gardens is their ability to set pods and produce even when temperatures soar above 95 degrees, conditions that cause other beans to drop flowers and abort pods. Cowpeas actually prefer hot weather and become more productive as temperatures rise, up to about 95 degrees. The drought tolerance is equally impressive. Cowpeas have deep tap roots that can reach 4 to 8 feet into the soil, accessing moisture far below the surface. The plants can produce acceptable yields with as little as 15 to 20 inches of annual rainfall, and they tolerate dry spells that would kill common beans. The leaves have a waxy coating that reduces water loss, and the plant has the ability to close its stomata during the hottest part of the day to conserve moisture. This sophisticated water management system allows cowpeas to thrive with minimal irrigation in hot climates. Plant cowpea seeds 1 to 2 inches deep and 3 to 6 inches apart after soil temperatures reach 65 degrees Celsius. The plants establish quickly and begin flowering within 60 days. Matsubushi varieties mature in 60 to 70 days, while vining types take 90 to 120 days but produce heavier yields. Cowpeas actually prefer lean to moderately fertile soil. Excessive nitrogen causes rank vegetative growth at the expense of pod production. The roots develop nitrogen-fixing nodules that can add 50 to 100 pounds of nitrogen per acre to your soil, improving it for subsequent crops. You can harvest cowpeas as fresh shell beans when pods are plump but still green, or let them dry on the plant for storage. The fresh beans have a creamy texture and mild, slightly earthy flavor. Dried beans store indefinitely and are staples in Southern American, African, and Asian cuisines. The nutritional profile is outstanding, high in protein, fiber, and folate, with significant amounts of iron and other minerals. The young leaves and tender shoot tips are also edible and highly nutritious, commonly used as greens in many cultures. Cowpeas are remarkably pest and disease resistant, especially compared to other legumes. They're rarely bothered by the beetles and diseases that plague common beans. A single 10-foot row can produce several pounds of beans, even in hot, dry conditions with minimal care. This is a true climate-resilient crop that every gardener in hot, dry regions should be growing. 6. Cassava, also called manioc or yucca, is one of the most important food crops in the world, feeding over 800 million people daily. Yet it's virtually unknown to gardeners in temperate climates. This tropical root crop is extraordinarily drought-tolerant and thrives in poor soils where other crops fail. For gardeners in zones 8 through 11, cassava offers an opportunity to produce massive amounts of starchy food with minimal inputs. The plant grows as a woody shrub reaching 6 to 12 feet tall with beautiful palmate leaves and thick stems. Underground, it produces tuberous roots that can weigh from 2 to 20 pounds each. A single plant can yield 10 to 50 pounds of edible roots, depending on growing conditions and variety. What makes cassava absolutely remarkable for difficult conditions is its ability to produce in soils too poor for other crops and its extraordinary drought tolerance. Cassava thrives in sandy, low-fertility soils and can survive extended dry periods that would kill most vegetables. The plant has thick, waxy leaves that minimize water loss, and it can shed leaves during severe drought to conserve moisture, then regrow them when rains return. Cassava continues producing roots even during drought stress, though yields are higher with adequate moisture. The deep root system, which can reach 6 feet or more, allows the plant to access groundwater during dry periods. This makes cassava incredibly reliable in climates with uncertain rainfall. Cassava is propagated from stem cuttings rather than seeds. Take cuttings 6 to 12 inches long from mature stems and plant them at an angle, leaving 1 to 2 inches above soil level. Space plants 3 to 4 feet apart. The cuttings root quickly in warm soil and begin growing vigorously. The plants require 8 to 12 months to produce mature roots, though some varieties can be harvested earlier. Once established, cassava requires minimal care. The plants are remarkably pest and disease resistant and tolerate poor soil conditions that stress other crops. The roots must be processed before eating as they contain compounds that can be toxic if consumed raw. Peel the roots and boil them thoroughly, which removes these compounds completely. The cooked roots have a mild, slightly sweet flavor and starchy texture similar to potatoes. Cassava can be boiled, baked, fried, or processed into flour. Cassava flour is gluten-free and increasingly popular in baking. The young leaves are also edible when cooked and are highly nutritious, rich in protein and vitamins. For climates where cassava can be grown, it represents one of the most productive, drought-tolerant, and low-maintenance crops available. A small planting can produce hundreds of pounds of food with minimal water and zero fertilizer input. 7. Pigeon pea. Pigeon pea is a perennial legume that's been cultivated in India for over 3,500 years and is now grown throughout the tropics and subtropics. Yet it remains virtually unknown to Western gardeners, despite being extraordinarily drought-tolerant, heat-resistant, and productive. This is a serious oversight because pigeon peas thrive in conditions that challenge other legumes and can produce for years with minimal care. The plant grows as a woody shrub reaching 6 to 12 feet tall with attractive compound leaves and showy yellow flowers that develop into pods containing 4 to 6 peas. The plants are beautiful enough to serve as landscape shrubs while producing nutritious food. What makes pigeon peas absolutely exceptional for dry, hot climates is their deep taproot system that can reach 6 to 10 feet into the soil. This extraordinary root penetration allows pigeon peas to access moisture during extended dry periods when other plants are stressed. The plants can survive months without rain once established, and continue producing pods through drought conditions. Pigeon peas also thrive in heat, growing vigorously in temperatures up to 95 degrees C and tolerating occasional spikes above 100 degrees. The plants are adapted to intense sunlight and don't suffer the leaf scorch that affects many vegetables in full sun. For zones 9 through 11, pigeon peas can be grown as perennials, producing for 3 to 5 years or more. In Zone 8, they can be grown as annuals. Plant seeds 1 inch deep and space plants 3 to 4 feet apart. The plants establish quickly in warm weather and begin flowering within 4 to 6 months. Pigeon peas fix substantial amounts of nitrogen, often 50 to 100 pounds per acre, annually. This makes them valuable as living fertilizer for other crops. The deep roots also mine nutrients from subsoil layers and bring them up where other plants can use them. You can harvest pigeon peas as fresh, shell peas when pods are green and plump, or let them dry on the plant for storage. Fresh peas have a distinctive, slightly nutty flavor and cook quickly. Dried peas store indefinitely and are staples in Indian, Caribbean, and African cuisines. The nutrition is outstanding, high in protein and fiber with significant amounts of vitamins and minerals. The young leaves and shoot tips are also edible and nutritious. A single established plant can produce several pounds of peas annually with zero irrigation in many climates. Pigeon peas are remarkably pest and disease resistant and require no fertilizer once established. They tolerate poor, acidic soils and actually improve soil structure with their deep roots and nitrogen fixation. This is a true permaculture crop that keeps producing year after year with minimal inputs. 8. Fonio. Fonio is possibly the most exciting grain you've never heard of. This ancient African cereal has been cultivated for over 5,000 years, sustaining entire civilizations in the Sahel region of West Africa. Yet it remains virtually unknown outside Africa, despite being extraordinarily drought-tolerant, incredibly fast-maturing, and highly nutritious. Fonio is often called the grain that feeds the desert, because it thrives in conditions too harsh for other cereals. The plants are delicate and graceful, growing low and spreading with fine hair-like seed heads that shimmer in the sun. The seeds themselves are tiny, about the size of fine sand grains, but don't let that fool you about their value. What makes fonio absolutely remarkable for dry, hot climates is its ability to germinate and grow with minimal moisture. Fonio can produce crops with as little as 8 to 10 inches of annual rainfall, less than almost any other grain crop. The plant completes its entire life cycle in just 6 to 8 weeks, making it one of the fastest maturing cereals on Earth. This rapid maturity is a drought adaptation strategy. Fonio germinates with the first rains, grows explosively, and produces seed before the dry season intensifies. This allows it to succeed in climates where slow-maturing grains would fail. The plant is also remarkably heat-tolerant, continuing to photosynthesize and develop seeds even in scorching temperatures. Fonio grows well in poor, sandy soils that won't support other grains. The plants require minimal fertility and actually perform better with neglect than with heavy fertilization. This makes fonio perfect for marginal land and degraded soils. For growing in zones 9 through 11, fonio offers a unique opportunity to produce a grain crop in conditions too harsh for wheat, corn, or rice. Prepare soil by loosening it well. Those tiny seeds need good contact with the earth. Broadcast seeds thinly and rake them in lightly, barely covering them. Water gently to avoid washing seeds away. Once germinated, fonio requires minimal care and tolerates dry conditions remarkably well. The plants grow low to the ground in spreading tufts with delicate seed heads that mature quickly. 1 square meter can produce up to 2 pounds of grain. The grain has a slightly nutty, earthy flavor similar to couscous and can be used in exactly the same ways. The nutritional profile is exceptional. Fonio is high in amino acids that are rare in other cereals, particularly methionine and cysteine. This makes it a complete protein source, comparable to quinoa. Harvesting requires patience as the seeds are so tiny, but the yield is worth the effort. Cut the seed heads when fully mature and dry them thoroughly. Thresh by rubbing between your hands or treading on them. The grain stores indefinitely and provides nutritious food when other crops have failed. This is a grain that sustained entire civilizations through drought and deserves rediscovery by climate-conscious gardeners. 9. Bambara. Groundnut. Bambara groundnut is one of Africa's best-kept secrets, a drought-tolerant legume that produces nutritious seeds underground, like peanuts. Cultivated for over 4,000 years across sub-Saharan Africa, Bambara groundnut is remarkably resilient and productive even in harsh conditions. yet it remains virtually unknown outside Africa, despite being one of the most climate-adapted crops available. The plants grow as low, spreading bushes 6 to 12 inches tall with trifoliate leaves similar to true beans. Small yellow flowers develop at the base of the plant and, after fertilization, send pegs into the soil where pods develop underground. Each pod contains 1 to 3 seeds that can be cream, brown, red, or black with various patterns. What makes Bambra groundnut absolutely exceptional for hot, dry gardens is its extraordinary drought tolerance combined with reliable production. The plants can produce full crops with as little as 16 inches of annual rainfall and tolerate extended dry periods during growth. The deep taproot, which can reach 3 feet or more, accesses moisture from deep soil layers. Bambra groundnut also thrives in heat, growing vigorously in temperatures up to 95 degrees and tolerating occasional spikes above 100 degrees. The plant actually prefers hot weather and produces best when temperatures are consistently warm. The crop grows well in poor sandy soils where other legumes struggle. It fixes substantial amounts of nitrogen and actually improves soil fertility for subsequent crops. The plants are also remarkably pest and disease resistant compared to other legumes. For zones 9 through 11, Bambra groundnut offers an opportunity to grow a complete protein source with minimal water input. Plant seeds 2 to 3 inches deep and 6 to 8 inches apart after soil temperatures reach 65 degrees Celsius. The plants establish slowly but grow steadily once the hot weather arrives. Bambra groundnut requires 4 to 5 months to mature. You'll know pods are ready when the leaves begin yellowing and drying. Pull up entire plants and shake off soil to reveal clusters of pods attached to the roots. Allow plants to dry for a week or two, then separate pods. The seeds can be eaten fresh when young and tender, similar to fresh peas, or allowed to dry for storage. Fresh seeds have a sweet, nutty flavor. Dried seeds must be soaked and cooked like other beans, developing a rich, earthy taste and creamy texture. The nutrition is outstanding. Bambra groundnut contains 16 to 20% protein and is rich in essential amino acids, making it a complete protein source. The seeds also contain significant amounts of fiber, vitamins, and minerals. A small 10-foot row can produce several pounds of nutritious seeds, even in difficult conditions. This is a true subsistence crop that deserves much wider cultivation. 10. Moringa. Moringa is called the miracle tree for good reason. It's one of the most nutritious plants on earth and thrives in hot, dry conditions that challenge other vegetables. Native to the foothills of the Himalayas, moringa is now grown throughout the tropics and subtropics as both a food crop and nutritional supplement. The tree grows rapidly, often reaching 10 to 15 feet in the first year and eventually growing 25 to 30 feet tall. The compound leaves are delicate and fern-like. The flowers are cream-colored and fragrant, and the seed pods are long and slender, resembling oversized green beans. What makes moringa absolutely remarkable for dry climates is its extraordinary drought tolerance once established. The tree develops a massive taproot that can reach 6 feet or more into the soil, accessing groundwater during dry periods. Mature moringa trees can survive months without rain and continue producing edible leaves, flowers, and pods. Moringa is also incredibly heat-tolerant, thriving in temperatures above 95 degrees and tolerating sustained heat above 100 degrees without stress. The tree actually prefers full sun and intense heat, conditions that stress most vegetables. For zones 9 through 11, moringa can be grown as a perennial tree. In zone 8, it often dies back in winter, but regrows from roots in spring. Plant seeds 1 inch deep in well-draining soil after all frost danger has passed. The trees establish quickly and begin producing edible leaves within a few months. The leaves are the primary harvest and are extraordinarily nutritious, higher in vitamins, minerals, and protein than most vegetables. Fresh moringa leaves contain more vitamin C than oranges, more vitamin A than carrots, more calcium than milk, and more potassium than bananas. They're also rich in all essential amino acids, making them a complete protein source. The young leaves can be eaten fresh in salads, though most people prefer them cooked as they have a slightly sharp, horseradish-like flavor when raw. Cooked leaves are mild and blend well into soups, stews, and sauces. The leaves dry beautifully and can be powdered for use in smoothies and supplements. The immature seed pods, called drumsticks, are also edible and highly nutritious. They're prepared like green beans and have a pleasant, slightly asparagus-like flavor. The mature seeds can be eaten like peas or pressed for oil. The flowers are edible and nutritious, commonly used in Asian cuisines. Even the roots are edible, though they taste strongly of horseradish and should be used sparingly. A single mature moringa tree can produce hundreds of pounds of edible leaves, pods, and seeds annually with zero irrigation in many climates. The tree requires no fertilizer and is remarkably pest and disease resistant. This is a true superfood crop that thrives in difficult conditions. 11. Chiltepin pepper. Chiltepin is the wild ancestor of all domesticated chili peppers and represents one of the most heat and drought-tolerant vegetables you can grow. Native to the Sonoran Desert and surrounding regions, chiltepin has been harvested from wild plants for thousands of years. These tiny peppers pack extraordinary heat and flavor while thriving in conditions that stress conventional peppers. The plants grow as small, woody shrubs 2 to 4 feet tall with dark green leaves and small white flowers that develop into tiny round peppers about the size of peas. The peppers start green and ripen to bright red, with heat levels ranging from 50,000 to 100,000 Scoville units, significantly hotter than jalapenos. What makes chiltepin absolutely exceptional for hot, dry gardens is its evolution in one of North America's harshest climates. The plants thrive in intense heat and full sun, continuing to flower and set fruit even when temperatures exceed 100 degrees. Conditions that cause conventional peppers to drop flowers and stop producing. Chiltepin is extraordinarily drought-tolerant once established. The deep root system can reach 4 to 6 feet into the soil, accessing moisture other plants can't reach. Mature plants can survive months without supplemental water in desert climates, though they produce more heavily with occasional irrigation. For zones 8 through 11, chiltepin can be grown as a perennial, producing for many years once established. The plants grow slowly the first year, focusing on root development, then begin heavy production in subsequent years. Start seeds indoors 8 to 10 weeks before the last frost, or plant them directly in warm soil. Seeds germinate slowly and irregularly, often taking 3 to 4 weeks. Plant them 1 4-inch deep in well-draining soil and keep them warm and slightly moist. Once established, the plants require minimal care and prefer neglect to fussing. Chiltepin plants are remarkably pest and disease resistant. Their intense capsaicin content deters most insect pests naturally. The plants also attract beneficial insects with their flowers and provide habitat for predatory insects that control garden pests. The peppers are harvested when fully red and ripe. Despite their tiny size, the flavor is complex and intense with a quick, clean heat that doesn't linger excessively. Chiltepin peppers are prized in Mexican and southwestern cuisines and command premium prices when available. A single mature plant can produce hundreds of peppers over a season. The peppers dry beautifully and store indefinitely, maintaining their heat and flavor for years. This is a true heritage crop that connects you to ancient food traditions while thriving in challenging conditions. 12. Tindora, ivy gourd. Tindora, also called ivy gourd or kundru, is a vigorous perennial vine that's been cultivated in India and Southeast Asia for thousands of years. This vegetable is extraordinarily productive and thrives in hot, humid conditions that stress many crops. For gardeners in zones 9 through 11, Tindora offers an opportunity to grow fresh vegetables year-round with minimal inputs. The vine is vigorous, climbing or sprawling 10 to 15 feet or more with attractive lobed leaves and small white flowers. The fruits are small, oval, and cucumber-like, typically 2 to 3 inches long and striped green with white. The vines can produce continuously for years once established. What makes Tindora absolutely remarkable for challenging conditions is its heat tolerance and productivity. The vine thrives in temperatures above 90 degrees and continues flowering and fruiting even during sustained heat above 100 degrees. This makes it valuable for climates where conventional vegetables struggle during summer. Tindora is also quite drought tolerant once established, though it produces more heavily with regular moisture. The extensive root system can access moisture from a wide area, allowing the vine to survive dry periods. The plant is also remarkably pest and disease resistant. Tindora is typically propagated from cuttings rather than seeds, as seeds are difficult to obtain and germinate irregularly. Take 6 to 12-inch cuttings from mature vines and plant them in well-draining soil. The cuttings root quickly in warm weather and begin growing vigorously. Provide a trellis or support structure as the vines grow rapidly and produce heavily when grown vertically. The vines can also be allowed to sprawl as a ground cover, though this makes harvesting more difficult. Once established, Tindora requires minimal care. The vines tolerate poor soil and need little fertilizer. They're rarely bothered by pests or diseases that affect other cucurbits. The fruits are harvested when young and tender, typically 2 to 3 inches long. At this stage, they're crisp and mild with a slightly tangy flavor. Young fruits don't require peeling and can be used like cucumbers or cooked like squash. They're commonly used in Indian curries, stir-fries, and pickles. A single established vine can produce dozens of fruits weekly during the growing season. The vines continue producing year-round in frost-free climates, providing fresh vegetables when other crops are dormant. Tindora is highly nutritious, rich in vitamins, minerals, and fiber, while low in calories. The young leaves and shoot tips are also edible and commonly used as cooked greens in many cultures. This is a permaculture crop that keeps producing year after year with minimal care, making it ideal for low-maintenance gardens in hot climates. Now for that bonus tip that will transform your success with these drought-tolerant crops. Before planting any of them, amen your soil with biochar. This goes against common gardening practice, but it's a game changer for water conservation and drought resilience. Biochar is charcoal produced from organic materials specifically for agricultural use. It's been used for thousands of years. The indigenous peoples of the Amazon created terra preta soils using biochar that remain incredibly fertile today. What makes biochar extraordinary is its porous structure that can hold several times its weight in water while also providing habitat for beneficial soil microorganisms. When you add biochar to your soil, you're essentially installing a water storage system at the root level. The microscopic pores in biochar absorb water when it's available and release it slowly to plant roots during dry periods. This can reduce irrigation needs by 30 to 50% while improving plant performance during drought. Biochar also improves nutrient retention, preventing fertilizers from leaching away with rain or irrigation. The porous structure provides habitat for beneficial bacteria and fungi that help plants access nutrients and resist stress. You can purchase biochar from garden suppliers or make your own from wood scraps using simple methods. Mix it into planting holes or beds at about 5 to 10% by volume before planting. The benefits last for decades as biochar is extremely stable in soil. Combining these climate-resilient crops with biochar-amended soil creates a powerful system for food production even under difficult conditions. These forgotten crops represent thousands of years of agricultural wisdom and adaptation. They've sustained civilizations through drought, heat, and challenging conditions. By bringing them into your garden, you're not just growing food, you're preserving genetic diversity and connecting with resilient food traditions from around the world. Give these drought warriors a chance, and they'll reward you with abundant harvests when you need them most.